The triumphant Machiste and Satana prepare their coffins for the criminal syndicate in the jungle hell of an iguana's bumhole.
Well, hello, and welcome to the final episode of The Iguana's Butthole, where Clive and I have been watching the entire filmography of Umberto Lenzi as a little window onto what was going on in Italian genre cinema from the kind of 60s through the 90s. And as it turns out, as we talk about this today, we may have in fact watched one movie that we didn't need to. But we'll talk about that when we get to it.
I'm
one of these movies,
not pleased about that, but I suppose the nightmare is over. So
yeah, one of these films, it's very strongly suggested in Mr. Troy Howarth's book. It's a bullshit.
Our number one fan and supporter, Troy Howarth, Nick.
Yes, that's the one.
Right. He's been looking at the door all day as a pest, trying to get in.
Yeah, he basically says that it's utter bullshit that one of these films has been erroneously credited, even though everywhere you look on the internet it's credited to Lenzi. But I noticed, interesting enough, when I went into, because I kind of piqued my curiosity, so I went into the film list in this, which is an Italian book, and the film in question is not on this list. And it seems like Italian filmographies do not credit Lenzi as the director of one of these films.
Well, don't be coy. I mean, I'm guessing. Are we talking Detective Malone?
We are.
Yes. Okay. So we'll wax about that when we get there, because in some way that's definitely correct because of the way that film's constructed. But
yeah, we'll get there. But anyway.
We got some other shit to wade through.
Unfortunately, we have a few other turds to dissect before we get there.
What's up first then, Nick? What's lights do we have?
What is up first? I can't even remember now.
I think it might be Hitcher in the Dark.
It is Hitcher in the Dark, yes.
Or Return of the Hitchhiker, as it's known in some places, apparently.
Yeah.
So we're starting in 1989. And this is our last gasp of Lenzi.
Right. And I will say, since getting my new glasses, I was able to appreciate that this film was in high definition.
Finally, you understand.
This is this is a surprisingly clear print of a not particularly great film. Although in the scope of what we're going to talk about today, this is actually one of the better films of the 8 we're about to talk about.
Really? I hate this film.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I will say that
Nel Buio, right? The original title.
Right.
And written by,
it's kind of like, basically, I think a probably more accurate title would have been Ted Bundy, Winnebago Warrior.
I'm liking that quite a bit. It's better than the film deserves. And this is another one written by is Mrs. Lenzi, Olga Piha, and Joe D'Amato for a producer, maybe.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's one of the
him soon. Well, relatively soon.
Yes, this is. I think this is a Filmy Rage or Film Mirage or whatever the hell it is.
Right.
One of theirs. But I had to say, like, one thing that I laughed when I was reading the credits of this. I was thinking to myself, like, Lenzi, and it's not like Lenzi was always working with like absolute the echelon of acting or anything like that.
That's the kind of guys we are, by the way. We laugh at credits. That's how we.
Yeah.
We're hard rocking dudes who enjoy some credits.
But back in the 60s and 70s, he's working with kind of like at least B-list American actors who've kind of slightly past their prime or whatever, or in some cases I think A-list Italian actors, right? But when you start dipping into the Andy Milligan repertory theater for your stars, I think maybe maybe it's time to throw in the towel.
Joe Balog. To be fair though, actually I will say this in defense of Andy Milligan. He did actually have sometimes better than usual actors because they were coming from a theatre background, right? But
yeah, and you know, Joe isn't the worst thing about this either, I have to say.
no. Worth mentioning, film, you couldn't decide film mirage or film mirage, and it's actually quite apt, right? Because it is I think when you rent a film mirage, it is a mirage because it looks kind of good and oh, this looks exciting, and then you put it on and halfway through you have filmy rage, right? Because it's so
because it's Ghost House.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, so you know what's funny about this film, actually, and maybe this is the reason why I kind of enjoyed it, even though it was you know, certainly painful in some ways, but like the sense of place and time was so strong. This film was giving me like semi PTSD flashbacks to Canada 1989. Like it looked so much like the year that I moved to Canada, like the hideous fashions, the kind of like, and just the lifestyle of like people driving around in giant fucking Winnebagos and going to like these little parks, and like I don't know, it was really uncannily had its finger on the pulse of everything that was wrong with 1989 in North America.
Yeah, it's at first I thought it was going to be another Floridian film, but it's Norfolk, Virginia, I believe they're actually driving around in. So yeah, so we should say that Joe Balog will pop up again in that other classic Black Demons, and as you said, was in Animal Monstrosity, and he's also in that other famously bad film Hollywood's New Blood as well. So he's got quite, the career has Joe. Whatever you say is
Joe Blow. I think it's Joe Blow.
Joe Blow. Yeah. Joe Blow. Actually, that kind of works. Yeah. So he's driving around, as you said, in his Winnebago, and he's a psychopath, obviously, and he's also he seems to be a rich kid as well, right?
Yes. So yeah, he's definitely a rich prick.
And we see him quite early on killing someone and taking Polaroids of the topless corpse. And yeah, so he picks up along the way. He picks up Josie Bissett, right? Who
who has a career after this film.
Yeah, who I didn't know because not necessarily a movie, but but was on Melrose Place.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I've ever seen an episode of.
No, it was a spin-off. It was a spin-off of Beverly Hills 90210, which I did watch some of when I was a teenager. But no, I never saw Melrose Place.
So it's that kind of thing, is it?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. It was a slightly more. They were slightly older. They weren't high school kids. They were more like college age. But yeah.
Right. Okay. And so and it turns out that she gets in his Winnebago because she's running away from her boyfriend, who isn't MacGyver.
No, he's not.
I did have to check though.
Jason Saucier or whatever his name is.
Quite MacGyver-y, and I haven't seen MacGyver for a long time. So is that MacGyver?
Now that you say that, actually, he's actually aged into also continuing to look a bit like the guy who played MacGyver. Maybe a bit less hair. But I'm on the IMDb page for the movie right now. Anyway, yeah. So her boyfriend is kind of like she thinks he's a sleaze, so she lights out.
He's too busy making things out of lamps and tables.
Yeah, exactly.
Things, yeah. Show me a bit of attention. Well, but look, I can make a defibrillator out of a tree and some batteries.
Chewing and some chewing gum wrapper. So she gets picked up by our serial killer in his giant Winnebago, which I'd like to is actually a proper Winnebago brand Winnebago too. It's got I'm sure they were happy about the product placement.
He's immediate. I mean, he's like immediately an asshole as well, right? Like, most people would have just got it. Like even halfway through opening the, I'm good. Like even looks like, because he's got that permanent pissed off. Like if that
scowl
up next to you on the road, you wouldn't get into that.
Giant Ray-Bans, Yeah. Well, the first thing it is when she gets in, she literally gets 2 words out and slams on the brakes and has her head smash into the.
Yes.
Or is that the first girl he picks up? I can't remember if that might be the first girl he picks up.
Doesn't really matter.
Whatever. But anyway,
it's interesting though, because when we get to it, he has pretty much the same chip on his shoulder in Black Demons. I'm wondering if this is just his acting style. Is just to be
right.
Because I don't remember him in Monstrosity, so I'll have to watch that. I'll have to watch that again to see
simmering rich boy rage. That's his. Yeah. And so really, basically, the whole movie is just him. You know, in some ways, it's funny. It is actually it's a bit of a return to the themes, I guess, of some of those 60s giallos, right? The kind of like the kidnap, you know, and like this kind of extended sort of torture and you know, and all of the stuff like of messing with her in front of when Kevin finally does show up to try to rescue her. There were elements of it that reminded me a little bit of some of those, you know, Carol Baker kind of things.
Yeah. You can imagine Carol Baker having been picked up by Joe Blow, right? A young Carol Baker. It is as well, thinking about it is very much, I mean, it's obvious from the title, but it is the form, the shape of the story as well. That is pretty much what happens in Hitcher as well, isn't it?
I think so. Although, funnily enough, Lenzi says the big inspiration on this was
I don't believe anything Lenzi says. So.
True. Yeah, he says the Terence Stamp film, The Collector.
Okay, all right.
About the young rich kid who basically kidnaps women and locks them in his basement or whatever, and you know.
But the Hitcher, obviously. I mean.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's almost so glaring. That's why I brought it up, because it's tempting to just forget to say that, right? But we may have viewers, amazingly, but among those viewers, you never know, we may have young viewers who the Hitcher might not loom, because we're just about old enough to remember Hitcher coming out and Hitcher being like a really big deal. Right? It's a kind of a major cult film of our childhood, right? So, but I can see maybe people might have forgotten.
This was released as Hitcher 2 in Italy, of course.
There we go. Yeah.
So you know,
So and of course, let's not forget that he's also carrying around a photograph of his Russian mother.
Yeah, who left him for a tennis player. Or left the family, could I say, for a tennis player, yeah. He's developed an obsessive Oedipal thing about her. And he even cuts off Josie's hair.
Yeah, that's the thing. So the film is awful, but you can kind of at least enjoy Joey Bissett in different states of undress being terrorized. And he gives her that horrible haircut. And then it's like, oh, well, that's not even doing it for me anymore. I'm just going to have to do with the wet t-shirt contest footage and a jet ski competition.
Yes, I do like that Kevin is distracted from his like relentless, you know, once he realizes his girl has been kidnapped by a psycho, he's on the trail, he's hot, you know, which includes that great scene of him breaking into some random African-American man's Winnebago, and that whole scene just plays out like...
Yeah, that doesn't play well nowadays. Yeah.
No, nothing about that is good, but it's ridiculous. I was laughing pretty hard. But then, but I do like the fact he does stop to pause. He pauses a while at the wet t-shirt competition.
Well, you know, you got to.
And then he's okay. Yeah, back to finding.
You have to rest and replenish every now and again, Nick. Even if you are on the trail of Joe.
Right. Joe Blow, the serial killer.
Also, the other bit is worth mentioning is the bit where they go to a drive-in cinema, and people are really losing their shit to the actually a film I've not seen, but I'm quite keen to see the Italian caveman comedy. I'm assuming it's a rip-off of that.
The Ringo Starr one?
Yeah. Called Grunt.
Yes.
Have you ever seen
that? No, that thing looks like differently abled. That film looks like...
I'm keen. I think it might be film crack fodder if you can find a copy for us.
I will check the usual haunts. Okay.
We can do that on another caveman film.
Okay. All right. Yeah, anyway, yes, that's a bizarre scene. Everyone's just uproariously laughing. And and like you have to wonder, is that actually the music from the film? Because if so, like, whew,
yeah, it's going to be good.
Horrifying.
I'm looking forward to that episode.
Silent music, comedy music played over that whole scene. And of course,
probably the highlight of the film actually is the clips from Grunt.
So Lenzi, of course, was outraged because his original plan was to end the film with without the stupid twist ending of her surviving and you know, spoilers here. But basically the film was supposed to end with her and the boyfriend both offed, and then him going to talk to his dad, and his dad going, yeah, you can have a lend of the camper for another few weeks, and he's like, great, and then him picking up a girl and the end. So
freeze frame.
Right, which would have been a better ending than.
I can't even remember how it ended. What happened at the end again?
Oh well, so she survives, right, and he picks her up, and she's like, and she turns around and she kills him.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's so bad you actually blank it out.
I'll be honest with you, because we should apologize as well. We promised to do 64 films in 8 weeks. We actually did them in 10, but so this sorry about that. So this last I don't know why I'm upon, no one gives a shit, but so these films I watched. There's been over a longer period of time because we put back the episode a bit, so I will be a bit fuzzy on some of the details of these 8.
That's because also some of these films are pretty fuzzy on their own details.
Yes, but certainly this one I really because I had seen this one before.
Okay.
On Japanese VHS again. This will come up again. Several of these films I once owned the Japanese VHSs, and I could probably retire on the proceeds of selling some of them now, but they have long gone.
It's amazing that VHS has become like vinyl was. Like it's very strong.
Yeah, I had a number of these titles, and I looked them up as well. Some of them, you know, they fetch pretty good prices. And I just had a pile and said, "Oh, they're getting in the way," and literally just threw them in the trash. I saved the covers. I saved the covers for the art, and then I sent them to my publisher to use to illustrate the book. So I was smart enough to do that. But the films have long gone.
So anyway, I think the big takeaway is that Joe Blow, he's all right, but he's no Terrence Stamp. You know, I couldn't see him going Superman. I just don't. It wouldn't have worked. I would never kneel before his Zod. So
he's got a nice Zod, though, I've heard. Why Andy Milligan kept him around. Hell of a Zod on him.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so are we on to House of Witchery, House of Witchcraft, House of whatever the fuck it is? So
Ghost House 4, you mean?
Or Ghost House 4, yes. I have to say, of the 3 Andy J. Forrest starring films I have now watched, which, why the fuck was that? Actually, okay, in fairness to Andy J. Forrest, so I looked him up and discovered that he's a hell of a harmonica player.
Yeah, I discovered this time as well, I didn't before. He's got like a pop career in Italy, right? He's a legit pop star.
Yeah, no,
that makes like, a bit more sense, right?
He's kind of like he's a white blues man, and he's not bad. I watched a few live performances on YouTube, and I was like, okay, so he had another string to his bow other than this stuff.
He's like blind Cracker Forest or something like that. Is that his name?
Pretty much.
Right. Okay.
So House of Witchcraft, this is one of these, this is one of the 2 made-for-TV films that, I love the fact that at this point, Lenzi is like, you talking to your cats there?
Yeah.
Okay. At this point in his career, Lenzi can't even get stuff made for TV onto TV.
Yeah, well, actually, we should probably say it properly. It's actually one of 4, isn't it?
4, yeah.
Yeah.
The Houses films.
Yes, 2 of them were done by Fulci. And again, I had the VHSs of them as well. There was House of Clocks and Sweet House of Horrors, if I remember
I think so. Yeah.
correctly. And then, yeah, Witchcraft, which I'd seen before, and we'll be talking next, Lost Souls, which was,
Yeah.
oddly enough, that's the one. I seem to remember House of Lost Souls being like the one that wasn't as easily found as the other three for
Okay.
whatever.
Right.
But yeah, House of Witchcraft,
So
starring
they were made for TV.
and DJ Forrest.
And all four of them were never shown on Italian TV because the directors apparently weren't told you might want to, ease back on the gore. Not that they're super gory.
No, you'd think they did get that memo because, especially this
Yeah.
one, isn't particularly gory at all, is it?
Yeah, but apparently they were still considered to be too extreme for Italian TV.
I can understand if someone had said, "Hey guys, why don't you ease off on the quality?" That would make sense. But
Yeah, come on.
it don't have to be good. It's just on the telly. It's fine.
Yeah.
By the way, I should also apologize for the myriad dodgy Italian accents I've done during this show.
Mm-hmm.
That's all right.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the that's one we're still allowed to do. So I'm going to indulge until someone tells me otherwise. Yeah,
Yep.
It's not offensive for a white man to do an Italian accent. I don't think. It's fine.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know, but and regardless, I married into an Italian family, so it's all.
Yeah,
I've got
and
that.
your wife loves my Italian accent, and not to mention yours, actually, because you do some top dodgy Italian accents.
I do.
You even do a top dodgy Irish accent despite being Irish, amazingly.
No, weird. Yeah, it's a handicap I've got. So anyway, Andy J. Forrest, who we last saw in whatever the fuck the movie was, where they're trying to steal chalices from a
Bridge to Hell.
Bridge to Hell. Thank you. Yep. Where he was pretty flat and pretty boring. In this film, his flatness and boringness actually kind of adds to his character, I think, because he plays basically the straight man in this film. Like he's constantly like just vaguely upset and horrified by everything that's going on. So he's been having these nightmares, right, where he walks into this house and there's this so Maria Cumani Quasimodo plays the witch in this. She has to have a sense of humor about herself that she allowed herself or took the stage name of Quasimodo.
It could be her real name, you never know.
Half formed, I guess so. But anyway, she so she, he walks in and she's there with his rubbery decapitated head and throws it in a cauldron and he wakes up in a cold sweat. Yeah. And that scene recurs repeatedly throughout the film.
Which is something I kind of this is not much good, but there's something slightly
it's okay compared to what we're going to get to.
Yeah, it's like, there's some, it's not much fun to watch, but at least it's like, there's an element of just the fucking like loopiness to it, right? Like,
well, this one, I mean, all three of these, I think, in the next one as well. There's a ghost housiness about all of them. Like you definitely feel like they were made back to back or around the same time as Ghost House was. Some of the same kind of musical cues, some of the same just weird like.
Doesn't have that musical cue.
It doesn't have that musical. Anyway,
still not get rid of it.
So Andy J. Anyway, his wife is like, who he has a very strange relationship with. Who he has a psychiatrist friend, right? Who he goes to see. But his wife Martha says, we're gonna move into this house in the Italian countryside. They go there and shock horror
to save their marriage, right?
Yes.
To be fair, it has to be said, when this film starts, for like the first 5-10 minutes, it's quite propulsive and fast paced. And promises more than it delivers. It's like, oh, hang on, now we've had a decapitated head and he's woken up and he's shagging his psychiatrist, and then so it's like,
his wife is a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Really weird.
Yeah, her
Martha.
reactions to things are quite peculiar. But then it just kind of, as soon as they get to the house, it just slows right down, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
And so this is the one where there's the blind dude, right? Paul Mueller,
Paul Miller, yeah, who's a former concert pianist, I guess.
Right, and he not the actor though, right?
No. Well, as far as I know, the character.
Right.
Yes.
And he's very much like he's staggered in off of the set of Suspiria or any of those other, Italian movies with a blind man and a dog.
Right.
And then
I was expecting him to get his throat ripped out or something, but
my favorite character in this whole fucking movie is Alberto Frasca as Steven, the curly-headed goofy boyfriend who sneaks into the house to fuck the teenage daughter of like one of the, I don't remember which character's daughter it is. And as he's leaving, she says to him, like, see you around, banana oil. And I was like, what?
How did they do that? What I call you? That's my sign off every time we finish doing
it was a surprise. But yeah, I was like, is that because he goes there to get his banana oils? Like, what? Nothing about it made sense. It was awesome. And then he goes out and he wanders around the garden and he sees Martha, the creepy wife, wandering around in her white dress, and then he gets stuck down a well. I think that was his death.
Again, it's already fading from memory. I just remember it being vaguely better than House of Lost Souls, and I think possibly the two Fulci films were better, but not much.
Right.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's almost fun. It's almost okay. Like,
but it's not.
But it's not really, no. I won't be revisiting it anytime soon. But it has a few sort of atmospheric moments, and but yeah, it's not up to much.
No, it's the kind of thing, I suppose. Yeah, if you were watching TV in the 80s and it had actually turned up on TV, I suppose it would be oh look, Lenzi and Fulci have made a couple of TV movies, and this is well, it's not very good, but it's Lenzi. That's good.
If I'm not mistaken, this one has boobs in it, which surprised me to no end.
Maybe that's why it didn't end up on telly.
Maybe, yeah. It does, yeah. It's so quite near the end after they. Oh yeah, that's great. Yes. So Andy J. Forrest's character decides to deal with his wife's the fact that she's evil and she's a witch, that he's convinced anyway, by releasing an angry dog on her, which shreds her. And then later in the film, we find out that she was entirely innocent and that it was his new girlfriend, the blonde, who's actually the witch. But he's the one that he bangs on a bed, and you actually see her boobs. And I was like, oh, that's. Is it
a reveal? I mean, I get that this film is so kind of going for that dreamlike thing. I'm not sure if it's necessarily a haha, it was me all along, more than just the loop continues kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to go out of my way to defend this film, but if this kind of dream logic film, I'm not sure if it matters too much if innocent characters killed by dogs. I think that's okay.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, I think we've probably spent a bit too long on
way too long.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
House of Lost Souls, Ghost House 3 in some places.
Yeah. This one feels the most ghost housey of anything that's called a ghost house film, because it has a washing machine that goes mad and eats a child's head.
Yeah, this is the one I think, like, it's a shame. I think House of Witchcraft worked better, but if this one is the more kind of nuts conceptually, I think I would have liked to have enjoyed this more, but it's so boring. But it would be fun to enjoy a Shining ripoff, which has Al Yamanuchi as a homicidal Buddhist monk. Like,
that was a strange.
Or as I know him as Al Yamanuchi. He's been Al Yamanuchi for years, but apparently now he's Hal Yamanuchi or Haruhiko Yamanuchi, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But he's always Al, good old Al, to me.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the one about a bunch of kids who end up going to they get lost in the mountains somewhere, right? They're driving around and
they're
they're like
geology students. They're geology students.
Right. Yes, that was important. Yes.
And the weather, some landslides or something, means they have to end up staying at this. I don't even know what it is. If it's an old hotel or not. And
Ghost hotel, basically.
Little boy with them, and it was the site of a murder or some murders before.
Series of murders, yeah.
Buddhist monk murders.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. The bit the murder made me laugh. I was speaking funny dialogue. There's a bit early on which, you know, it's like I'm a big fan of non sequiturs or things that are like totally out of proportion to what the other person said. There's a bit early on where a little boy just says to his mother, I think it's his mother, "I want a Coke," to which her response is, "Are you out of your mind, boy?" Which made me laugh. I thought that was a bit strong.
Right.
I mean, kids like fizzy drinks, right?
And this is the film too that has the great line where somebody says to his girlfriend, "The doctors gave you a perfectly reasonable explanation. You have psychic powers." And I'm like,
yes, that's right. Yes. Oh yes, I've forgotten. Oh yeah, that's right. One of the chicks has psychic powers. So she has premonitions that something bad is going to happen.
Right, or has happened. Possibly she can see into the past. She can see the murders that have happened here.
Right. And then it goes a little bit demons at the end when the place turns out to be walled up and they can't get out. Right.
Yeah. Best scene, however, though, is the scene where, you know, the annoying fucking kid
gets decapitated by a washing machine.
Is oft surprisingly early in the film in a fairly grisly way.
Well, you know, he shouldn't have asked for that Coke. Are you out of your mind, boy? That might be my new line when people ask for perfectly reasonable things. You pass the salt, please. Are you out of your mind, boy?
Yeah. This is not good, but it's, I don't know. I find it slightly endearing in its wonkiness.
Well, it's almost, again, like Witchcraft, I suppose, but I think this one was even more boring, even though I suppose you could argue there's more in it in terms of, I mean, that washing machine, that's gorier than anything that was in our Souls. But no, I mean, but
the other thing that made me laugh is that whenever they would flash back to the murders, the murderer was this like aged Charles Bukowski looking dude, like just kind of like, I was like, how was he killing anyone? Like, how was Al Yamanuchi not able to outrun that, you know, old, confused, possibly drunk man? But
there's a lot of people not being able to outrun things that they should and stuff like that in this. I mean, it's true. Very, I mean, yeah, it's very contrived in that way to kind of keep people in the vicinity of this house, which they should have left as soon as they turned up, right?
Yes, right, because two of the characters go off and do an extended like research trip to like a local town, and you're like, well, just stay in the town, don't go back to the.
And this is definitely Shining. Is I don't care what Umberto. Actually, I wanted to do homage to Rashomon. No, he didn't.
It totally is.
It's like, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of The Shining.
No, me neither.
But you've got to give it.
If you're going to be, if you're
I mean, this is like
hotel in the middle of nowhere movie.
Then The Shining's probably a better bet than House of Lost Souls.
Yes, some years back when I was doing the job where I had to drive all over Northern Ontario visiting various schools, I ended up staying in this hotel that had just been opened, and so there was nobody there. Like, I was the only guest, and it was quite a large hotel, and it was a very strange experience to kind of go in, and it was a snowy night, and to walk down the corridor to like my bedroom, and there was like just no sound, no other people, and you could see the kind of the big flakes flowing by. And I went into the bedroom, and there was still like plastic wrap on the mattress, Like they hadn't even like I had to like take it off and then go put my bed together, put my own blankets on, and it was just a very strange
It is
feeling.
interesting to stay. We stayed one time at this huge old hotel in Myanmar years ago before
Okay.
the troubles kicked off there, and I think it must have been like a really big deal, like back in the
Hmm.
40s or something. Like it was a place like visiting ambassadors or something
Right.
done. And it was just this massive, massive, huge place with huge like those like like a I don't know what you call it, like 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 a series of fountains running away from going away from the entrance. So it would have like a really
Right.
long kind of, not a driveway, but just like a
Right.
pavilion-y kind of. And it was and just me and my wife staying in the whole place, and like
Wow.
cobwebs and also the place where I drunk the most delicious wine I've ever drunk in my life. It's funny, it must have been like some kind of weird vintage or something that was lying in the basement from, but I remember just ordering some Chilean wine from the men just before bed, just like,
Mhm.
and it was that kind of wine that you only hear about, like, ambrosia, like no kick to it, just,
Wow.
my God. And I had another glass, and in retrospect, I probably should have insisted that they get me the crate from the cellar and
Yes,
send
get
it
like
to me.
that went the rest of that case.
Yes, cop target.
Yeah.
Yeah, now this is pretty rough. I mean, this is in my contender for worst Lenzi film.
Lenzi.
This one is, I mean, oof, like, some films really feel like almost as if they were there to do something else, like they're on holiday or something, and just like pointed their camera at, let's film something, like just late at night before they went to bed, and then everything was just stapled together. And do you know what I mean? There's something really
Yeah.
fucking lazy or something about
Yeah.
this.
And it also feels like it could have easily also been made for TV. Like it could have been a 2 episodes of some crap TV show that they edited together and gave a theatrical release for some, God knows. Like, yeah. There we go. Yeah, that's what it was. It was yeah. I mean, what the fuck?
But
So
obviously it was impressive enough for Charles Napier to think, God damn, I wish I could be the lead of one of these one day. And his dream will come true.
yes,
yes.
it will.
So what happened in this?
Whew, okay.
So
This
Robert Ginty is a
is
Floridian
Farley Wood is his name. Great name. Yeah,
Yes.
he's your typical
cop. They seem to have filmed in like the seediest bit of Florida they could find as well. And he's seen arrested.
What's with his fucking car? First of all,
it's like beat to shit, right?
Like beyond anything that's reasonable.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's unreasonable because no one comments on it.
Right.
If one car race agent just said, "What the fuck's up with your car, dude?" and then that would have been fine. But everyone just asks, "So is that like the cheapest beat up car they could find or something?"
I just don't know.
I kept expecting it to blow up, right? Because when you see a film that bad looking, you're like, "Oh, that's gonna bite the dust soon," right?
Yeah, anyway, yeah, I thought that was interesting. I think you were about to mention the fact that the first kind of scene we see him in is when he grabs a transvestite
some
hooker.
sort of trans streetwalker, right?
Yeah, which I couldn't help but be like, it was a weird moment that felt plucked out of one of those much older like Manhunt or
but he decided to make up for it and have Ginty be nice. Right. Kind of.
Yes.
After harassing them for a bit, and then kind of, get out of here, you crazy buff. Kind of.
Right. Although Yes, I mean there was that scene in whatever the fuck the other one was. It was really appalling. But you know, I generally speaking, weirdly enough, there have been a few of these more positive, you know, sympathetic portrayals of the trans community across these Lenzi films, which is, you know, given how many animals the man murdered, you know, it's nice to see him occasionally showing his kind side.
Nice to see you equating the trans community with animals there. I'm sure that'll go down well.
I don't think that's what I was doing. I was just saying, like, he's a guy. I'm not even gonna enter into this debate, Clive. Thanks.
Oh, come on! You usually take the bait.
No, not today. So what's this about,
Oh,
Clive?
he's
Do you remember?
learning before my very eyes. It's interesting to see. Did you just ask me what happened in this film? Fuck you.
Yes.
Fuck you, Nick. You tell me what happened. So yeah, what did happen? Something happens to take it. Oh yeah, that's right. So someone's died, some benevolent guy, some sort of diplomat or something. And
he'd gone down, he fought against the drug lords of some South American
island of Saint Cristobal.
Yes,
in the Caribbean.
Yes.
It is, of course, the Dominican Republic.
Yes.
Which looks a lot nicer than whatever fucking part of Florida they're filming in at the beginning.
Yep.
So
his wife has been brought down, right? Because he's died, and then his wife's been brought
like
down, and his daughter,
because he was so awesome.
Yes.
So him,
and Ginty's been sent to protect her from the drug lords or any retaliation.
I mean, kind of. I mean, Robert Ginty's character just seems to be, like he doesn't take anything
grumpy
that seriously.
Yeah.
And when the inevitable happens and she like falls for him, you know, in one scene, like, oh, I'm just so afraid, and they, you know, it's like so unconvincing.
Yeah. Hilariously
like,
so.
They haven't built up to it.
There's no, and then when it's done, after they've had sex, there's also still no chemistry at all.
No.
Like, you're
this
almost
is,
like
Barbara Bingham, right? Is the guy. So yeah, Robert Ginty is just I mean he's got a robot to feed his cat. I immediately disliked him because he has a cat feeding robot, yet he doesn't think to clean the cat's litter. And apparently he just fucks off for weeks at a time and leaves his cat. And at the end,
and it's like with a Rube Goldberg machine.
Yes, and at the very end, some character turns up and says like, your cat might be dead or something. And he's like, well. And I thought, I don't like you very much as a cat. You're a kind of a dick. If I didn't already think so. Irresponsible.
The lovable Ginty.
Well, the thing with Gint, I mean, I've always struggled a little. This produced, we should say, by Fabrizio De Angelis, Franco Fantasia assistant director again in it, and Lenzi's in there somewhere as well, isn't he? Apparently, like a card table. But I've always struggled a bit. I like The Exterminator. It's kind of, you know, I understand why it has its kind of
cult cachet.
Yeah, as a bit of a grindhouse kind of classic. But I haven't quite got round Robert Ginty as an action.
He's a weird looking dude, for one thing.
He's got those baby face kind of chipmunky cheeks, and which could work in his face. Right, I get it. There's the kind of, you don't expect him to be a flame throwing Avenger and Exterminator, but I've always never really understood how Robert Ginty had a career as an international action star. Certainly not this.
No,
he's not even trying, is he? No one's trying.
No, but yes, and apparently, you know, one of the takeaways from the Make Them Die Slowly book is that Lenzi thought he was a complete prick.
Who, Robert Ginty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Apparently he was very full of himself. Thought he was above being in whatever that Hop Target.
There's some footage from other films as well, the car chase from Final Score, and so apparently a helicopter explosion from Cobra Mission 2.
Okay. But
Um,
we're no stranger to recycled footage in this. That goes back to the very beginning, really, of Lenzi's career, right? I mean, that was showing up as early as like the Jungle Adventure films, which they were some of the later ones were just patchwork. I mean, that's the one thing that could argue in the favor of Black Cobra 4, actually, being a Lenzi film, but we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, I have nothing else to say about this.
No, I mean it was the when I was watching it, I mean it really stood out even amongst this company. It really stood out as like, oh,
As a dragger,
this is just fucking. I mean,
dire.
truly awful. Like, just
Yeah.
just oh yeah. I mean, yes. Let's move on. And Charles Napier's in it.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah,
Not much though. No, it's a
no, but
glorified cameo, really.
his moment in the sun would come. Don't worry.
Oh yes,
he
yes.
would
We'll get to
get
see a
the
lot
star
more of
in
Napier.
another, actually similarly shit. Oh, not quite as anyway. We'll get there. Right. What's next? What delights do we have next? Oh,
Demons 3, I believe.
Black Demons. Demons 3. Yeah, starring Joe Blow again.
Oh yes, yes.
Again, written by Mrs. Lenzi. This time it's not the Dominican Republic. This time they actually did go and shoot in Brazil.
Right.
And Joe Blow and is it his sister and her English boyfriend, I guess, Kevin, who has a record-breaking number of like not bad wisecracks, like wisecracks that are almost non sequiturs. Like, what are you saying that for? Like, there's a whole bunch of them where he just says like, yeah, really weird things in response to other people. Yeah, very strange, lines of dialogue this man has.
He again, Lenzi wasn't a fan of him either. He thought he was an asshole, and he also didn't want the girl in the film either. Apparently, there was a different actor who was supposed to play that part, and then she just didn't show up on the plane or whatever. They'd subbed her out for somebody else, and he was not best pleased about that either.
So I'm guessing the impetus for this film was like Serpent and the Rainbow or something like that. So yeah, they go. These people go to Brazil. Joe Blow's obsessed with
Macumba.
The corpses of some black slaves in chains come out the ground and gouge some eyeballs out.
Because he brings his little Sony Walkman or whatever, where he's recorded a voodoo ritual, and then he plays it in the graveyard, and that causes these 6 dudes to
this isn't very good either, is it really?
No. There's a couple of like relatively all right eyeballs gouged out.
Yeah, it looks like they reused the same effect. I
think so.
I think someone gets axed in the head as well at some point.
Yep.
But no, I mean, this is one of those ones that should be like, if it was trashier and more fast-paced, it could have been kind of fun. But it's not much fun, really, is it?
No, it's pretty turgid. Yeah, it's pretty turgid. It's pretty slow. And Joe Blow is really out of it in the film too. Like, at least he was given a sort of a hell's a poppin' rich kid asshole performance in the other.
Yeah, at least he's supposed to be a psychopath in that film, right?
Constantly kind of just like,
I don't even know what he's like. I don't understand why they're traveling with him, or because from the get-go, he's just like
fucking useless. Like,
useless and rude, and and eventually a murderer.
Yeah, he sucks.
Although his wisecracks are probably better than Kevin's.
Right.
I mean, literally, some of his like things that don't make any sense or something like. He doesn't say this, but almost this level of like someone will turn up and, oh, what a surprise! I didn't expect to see you here. What did you think I was? A Mexican bandit? Or you know, something like that.
Yeah, totally.
I wish I could remember some of the. I actually wrote them down, but Yeah, that was not also notable is the bit where they tried to copy the someone trying to rescue someone by putting an axe through the door scene from
Oh yes.
Passion of the Cemeteries, except they haven't orchestrated it at all, and the actress
Mhm.
looks like too scared to actually be near. So
Mhm.
she never gets that close, and they never do a trick with the camera to make it look like so there's like no tension.
Right.
Or she might get a splinter in her nose or something, but she's quite far away, and it's just not well done at all.
There's also the whole like so the dude that they're staying with who is he's a dick. He's constantly yelling at their sort of black maid, like screaming
Yeah,
at her and telling her she's
he's
worthless and
pretty
stuff. Being like,
racist, isn't he?
yeah,
Because his thing the whole way through is it's a nonsense. That's fine, but it's
Mm.
a black savage in the area. Just they don't know anything. They are the stupid savage. You know, and
Mhm.
no, he's quite disagreeable.
Yes, yeah.
Particularly mean to that maid as well. Like,
Yep.
doesn't matter what she's doing. He's like, "What are you
It's
doing?"
always
Like, even if
yeah,
she's setting the table for dinner or something.
yep.
Are you out of your mind, boy? She says.
Yeah, no, it's this is just not great. But I will say this though.
It's not cop target.
No, I'm gonna.
Oh,
Well, yes, there's that. No, I'm just gonna read to you a little bit from Lenzi's own words.
Great. This
This is from
will be
Spaghetti
good.
Nightmares.
Let me guess. This is his homage to Zero de Conduit or something.
Just hang on. So, I could read this in an outrageous Italian
Yeah,
accent.
go on. You know you
I'm not
want
going
to.
to. There's too much to
Man.
read. I want to read a few pieces. So, I worked very hard for 3 months on Demoni 3, Black Demons, a horror film which I consider my masterpiece.
What?
And on the adventure film Hunt for the Golden Scorpion. Both of these films were made very cheaply with my new company for the export market. Demoni 3, which was shot entirely on location in America. Is it? No, you just said Brazil. Anyway, I guess it's the Americas. It's about some black slaves who were killed 100 years ago by in a fazenda, and who, after being brought back to life by means of a macumba spell, the rite having been filmed in real life, by the way, take their revenge on those who caused their deaths. And here's the interviewer. A real macumba spell? Totally real, says Lenzi. The shots, in fact, were pretty dangerous, and some peculiar things happened on set. Indeed, the effect that the macumba had on our consciences and on our religious beliefs, without using any really gory details, was quite notable.
Well, I mean, if it was the other way around, that would explain Cop Target, that he was still under the spell. But no, Umberto,
no. Perhaps not a masterpiece then?
I mean, yeah, you've got to wonder. I would have quite liked to have met Umberto Lenzi just to see what he seems like. Such a delusional man. I don't know. Don't mean to speak ill of the dead, but
right.
All
right. Can we? Yes. Let's move on.
Let's move on to something a lot better. Oh no, hang on.
Oh no.
Detective
In fact,
Malone.
let's move on to something that wasn't directed by him at all, probably.
Detective Malone or Black Cobra 4.
Yes. So Bob Collins,
I had
Bob Collins
all 4 Black Cobras on VHS, picked up for like 200 yen a piece or something.
First one or two were Stelvio Massi, weren't they? I think they were like, and they were, kind of. Well, anyway.
No, they were rubbish. They
were not good. No,
but they're not as rubbish as this. To be fair, Lenzi, if it is him, has excelled at that.
Right. So let's spoilers here, folks. This film stars Fred Williamson as Sir Not appearing in this film.
Yes, and not even using his voice, right? He's clearly dubbed by someone else.
No.
Fred Williamson has quite a distinctive voice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and he's been dubbed by a stock Italian dubbing voice that you've heard a million times before. So yeah, that's weird. But that's to get around the fact where they clearly have him saying things that he wasn't saying on the set of Black Cobra 2 and 3, which is where all of the footage of him.
Well, I think the first one as well, because oddly enough, the first time I saw this film, I didn't pick up on this weirdly, even though I saw them all in pretty close proximity. But this time, I immediately had a memory of the main kind of villain being from the original Black Cobra, because the first Black Cobra is a rip-off of Cobra, right? The Sylvester Stallone film and Dirty Harry as well, but Cobra was a Dirty Harry rip-off anyway, very cartoonish one. But I remember the main villain in the first Black Cobra was kind of dressed to look like the villain of Cobra, like in the leather and everything. And as soon as I saw him in this, I was like, oh, did he return? It's weird how memory works. Like, I didn't remember that seeing Detective Malone a few months after Black Cobra back in the day. But now watching Detective Malone after not having seen Black Cobra for 20 years or something, somehow I remembered, oh, that's the villain from the original Cobra. Did he return? But no, it's stock footage, right? From, I guess, all 3 of the Black Cobra, certainly 1 and 2.
Yes, yeah. Because in this film, so, you know, to dispense with it, as I said, it's funny because I have a pretty strong feeling this isn't an Umberto Lenzi film, but I guess we watched it, so we have to talk about it.
Yeah, not watching this for nothing.
Bob Collins, which is it was never one of Lenzi. I mean, Humphrey Humbert, absolutely. Hank Milestone, that's a Lenzi for sure. But Bob Collins apparently is not Lenzi. But anyway, somebody made this
cocktail of Bob Collins.
I think it is. Yeah. A bit of vermouth. So yeah. Basically, this film is about like a software, like a computer engineer or whatever, right? Who gets kidnapped by an Arab terrorist gang who, as you pointed out, all dress like what you would expect Arab terrorists to dress like. Leather jackets with big metal spikes all over them.
Yeah, it is kind of weird when they suddenly start saying "For Allah," and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and they're a very
really, I mean, it's a good thing, but you're not really matching the stereotype image of a terrorist, right?
Because they're mostly Caucasian actors wearing black leather Mad Max outfits.
Which is fine. I mean, yeah, great. You've decided to go, but the thing is, you know, these films trade in stereotypes, right? So yeah, so that's your first. Even if you've not seen any of the other Black Cobra films, that's your telltale sign that something's not quite right.
Something's not on.
The other thing as well, so I probably enjoyed watching Detective Malone more than any of the other ones of these films, just because it's so shoddily put together. It really did feel like a dream, like in the way a Razorhead is or something. Because what's interesting about, so they've taken this footage from the Black Cobra films, but what's interesting is rather than having just taken like from the print or something, it looks like it's been filmed off of something, like not a TV set or anything, but almost as if they projected it.
It does get more grainy and granular for sure. Well, whenever we
more than anything else, it's really badly framed. Like, you can say whatever you like about the Black Cobra films, but at least things were like framed properly, or like sometimes there'll be a zoom in on like Fred Williams, but Fred Williams is like in the corner of the screen, or something. Like everything's a little bit off. It's really weird and disorientating. Yeah, it made me feel as if I'd been drinking and I hadn't. Like, it's really.
I also like that there's so much of people just phoning him up, and then he picks up the phone. He's like, "Yes," and then we'll come back to that guy who has a lengthy one-sided conversation with Fred Williams.
Does Troy Hoyworth have anything to say about? I mean, did Fred Williamson turn up for even a day's work, or is it just stock footage?
Well, the thing is, all Troy has to say about this film is this is not an Umberto Lenzi film.
Oh, he doesn't even go into it.
No, because he's like basically he did through the interviews he did. I guess he asked and was told point blank that. Hang on, I'll just go to the section. I mean, Title often erroneously included in Lenzi's filmography is Detective Malone, Black Cobra 4. The film is the final entry in a series of films built around the title character. Yeah, so it just says, according to Italian cinema scholar Eugenio Ercolani, the new material was not shot by Lenzi, and if he was involved in some kind of post-production capacity, he never spoke of it.
Okay. I mean, I'm willing to believe he was involved, though. I mean, it's not like it's above him, right?
Not at this point in his career, no.
No. And so we should mention that it doesn't star Fred Williamson. Even better than that, it stars Bobby Rhodes.
Yes.
Of the Pimp from Demons fame. But the thing about that is, because the great thing about that character in Demons is or certainly part of it, is the voice, right?
Yes.
But the thing is, it's not his voice. Because Bobby Rhodes is actually Italian.
Right.
And that voice is someone called like Victor Beard or something.
Okay.
Like that. And he has a very kind of strong African-American accent.
Right.
Which makes the character. But then when you see Bobby Rhodes, because as I said, you probably didn't have time to see it, Bobby Rhodes in more recent years has tried to cash in on the Tony the Pimp character by making a web series called Tony the Pimp of short. I kind of made it halfway through one episode. It's pretty bad. But the main problem is when he speaks
it's not that voice,
and it's not that cool Tony the Pimp voice.
There's a snippet of dialogue from Demons that's used in so many punk songs, and it's the smash everything, smash everything, smash everything.
Right.
Him just bellowing that.
Yeah.
And it's
and it's not him doing the voice here either, but it's I do kind of get a weird kick out of this being essentially a Bobby Rhodes vehicle.
Yes.
He's got some nice dialogue as well, like coffee gives me diarrhea.
Yeah, that's a good thing to say to a lady when you first meet her, for sure. Yeah. And then the other, you know what annoyed me most about this film was they set up this premise of this like computer engineer, software dude, like technical genius who's got like all his gadgets in his home.
Was really angry that his picture wasn't in the. That's like a long running joke.
Really upset that popular mechanics or whatever didn't run his photo. He gets kidnapped by a bunch of like Arab terrorists.
That's right.
In leather gear, and then he never does anything to like. He never rigs anything. He doesn't MacGyver anything.
No.
There's no MacGyvering whatsoever.
They needed that guy from Hitcher in the Dark is what they needed.
Clearly. I just was like, wow, I really thought they were going to go somewhere with that thing. And then, he just...
But there's the other bit as well, which is very strange in this new dub, where they attempt to kidnap him. They're stopped by Fred Williamson just kind of turning up and leaning against a door. And then that whole thing just, he kind of fakes it and pretends he's not one of the kidnappers. And you know, Fred Williamson knows otherwise, but it's just, he's like, yes, like casually putting a gun back in his, yes, well, I'll just be going back to the lab now. Thank God those terrorists were caught. And Fred Williamson just leaning there going, but that's it. I mean, so essentially, if Fred Williamson knows what's going on, he's just let the terrorists just
go. Yeah,
it's fucking strange. Which is why I kind of oddly, masochistically, kind of enjoy Detective Malone, because it's so doesn't make any. It's so out there in terms of what is the usual kind of spatial reality of a film.
I agree.
The use of music as well is like so inappropriate.
What I liked, actually,
I liked it, but it's totally inappropriate.
Was the score.
Yeah, but it's got nothing to do with what's
No.
going on screen.
Agreed. The other thing that I quite liked is like you know, so you obviously they brought back certain actors who had been in the film so that they could do things like have them stand next to Bobby Rhodes and then walk across, like kind of walk out of frame and then reappear in a piece of footage from one of the Black Cobra films.
Well, that's the weird thing is,
and you were like, oh, what? Like it
that's
just kind
the
of struck
weird
you.
thing is they've
But
gone.
they couldn't show them all in the same shot, right?
Yeah, they've gone to the bother of doing it. Like, I could understand if it was totally just cut and paste and people talking on Garfield phones to ninjas and stuff, IFP
Right.
style. But the thing is, they've gone to the trouble to a certain degree, and then it's 5 o'clock or something. I don't know. It's a weird mix that they've. That's why it's so confused. That's why I'm not quite sure if Fred Williamson is maybe in some original footage or
apparently,
not.
No. So apparently he was pretty upset when it came out, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then
did he have a Japanese VHS as well?
And then he did and then he just made some joke about, like, he was like, you know, he said I thought about suing, but it was like, fuck, it's Italy, like, what are you gonna do, basically?
Yeah, and you know, it probably made $5 or something.
Exactly.
So, but I have to admit, I might actually watch this film again one day because it's so. Do you understand what I mean, or did you just not enjoy it at all? I mean,
no, it's a weird, it's a curio. I always like a film where they've had to like work really hard. It's almost like Plan 9 from Outer Space, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
thing, you know, like
yeah, it is. I have to say, it might just be because I do. It is one of my weird fetishes. Actually, is the use of stock footage in it. Like I'm a huge proponent and fan of, like, I'll enjoy footage from other films more when it's in another, like a good example is have you ever seen Silent Night Deadly Night Part 2?
No.
Oh man, what a treat that is. Like, and it's,
I mean, isn't Crazy Fat Ethel 2 as well kind of more of the same?
Yes.
Like where
Yes.
most of the film is just like footage from the first film?
Yes, and for some reason I am a sucker for that stuff and enjoy the footage even more in the second for some bizarre reason. So yeah, I understand Detective Malone might not be for everyone, but it's my pick of the episode. I think this is the
fantastic. The one that probably isn't directed by Lenzi, but maybe.
Yes, yeah, but at least had some sort of weird it had
Twilight Zone pull.
Weird spell on
Okay.
me. I like when that happens. It's kind of like, yeah, it's like cinematic alchemy, but it's gone wrong, right? And they've accidentally, like, they've put gold in and made a turd or something rather than the other way around.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so
are we on to what might be for me the lowest point of this episode? Although it's the last two are kind of vying.
Yeah, Hunt for the Golden Scorpion, do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Caccia allo Scorpion Toro.
Yes. So we're back to Andy J. Forrest.
Andy J. Forrest. I should mention, it's funny as well. It didn't occur to me before but watching this one, I was like, why is Andy? Because I don't think we mentioned this, oddly enough, before. But Andy J. Forrest is very familiar to me recently because me and Ron on the other podcast that we do did Lambada, the Forbidden Dance, which is the film that's his big kind of starring role, right? Where
I didn't realize he was in that.
Yeah, where the Lambada saves the rainforests with the help of Kid Creole and his coconuts.
Okay.
Yeah. You didn't know that, did you? That the rainforest is no longer in danger.
I did not know that.
Thanks to Andy J. Forrest and his Lambada skills.
Okay.
So, you take it all back now, don't you? All that shit talking about Andy Forrest. He saved the world.
I told you that man can play a mean harmonica.
Yes, apparently so.
Yes. So this one like literally evaporated out of my brain as I was watching it. It was going in my eyes and coming out of my ears somehow.
All right, let me tackle the plot for this one then. So
yes.
David Brandon, Irishman, I believe, who turns up in Mean Tricks as well, that we'll talk about, goes missing in the Amazon, He's an ethnologist apparently, and he goes missing in the Amazon, killed or something. His sister, Christine,
Right.
a couple of scenes, is immediately suspicious, and I liked her. Like she's clearly got a very low bar for like knowledge or something,
Mm-hmm.
because she has this line. She says, "He knew. There's no way he went missing. He knew the Amazon, right?
Yes.
The whole Amazon. He knew the Amazon like the back of his hand." And then says a few minutes later, "This was his third time there." Like, wow, okay. And unfortunately, I think this hyperbole is actually quite common more and more on the internet. I think people are now deemed experts in things when they just aren't.
Yes, yeah.
But anyway, he goes missing, and the authorities
goes down to find him.
Yeah, right. Tell him he's been murdered, and then she gets a letter that was dated after the time he was apparently killed.
Oh, right. So this is the one. Sorry, this is the one where every time tits appear, the soundtrack changes to Italian.
Yes. So we watched. It seems to have been taken from some satellite channel or something. I'm guessing, and someone overlaid an English dub from somewhere.
Right. That must be what it is. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you thought there was some kind of weird Umberto Lenzi sending some kind of socio-political message.
No. I
just would turn up then.
Okay, no, that does make more sense. I just thought it was maybe it was a composite print where they pulled those sections out, but that makes more sense. It
that
probably
makes
was
more
just
sense, yeah. Because
but actually, I think what you're saying makes more sense. It probably was just an Italian language full length print, and somebody synced up the English.
Right? Yeah.
Yes,
I don't know where they got the English dub from, though, because I'm not quite sure where this got released.
There must have been a VHS of it. But like part of the problem with this film is I felt like, although once I got into it, I was like, oh, I see what this is. This is actually basically one of his kind of not very good Richard Harrison, stealing, like literally at the end of the film, it turns out Andy J. Forrest is basically playing the Richard Harrison character from one of those. Remember the Jewel Thief, where he spent the whole movie insulting his black partner?
Yes, from about a million years ago. Yes, I remember.
Yes. That's the kind of like an updated that thing. But I assumed.
Well, sorry. The other thing I think it might also be is the other. You always look for what it's copying. Is I'm guessing it's like Romancing the Stone and Jewel of the Night. Right?
Yes, I think it is. But I guess I was thinking with the title like that, I was going to assuming it would be more of an Indiana Jones ripoff than a Romancing the Stone ripoff. But you're absolutely right. It's definitely a Romancing the Stone ripoff.
Right. So they go there, and it turns out everyone's after this golden scorpion, which is a scorpion, part of an ancient statue, and there's a big diamond in it. Which if you're a big fan of things like the Elgin marbles and other riches being looted from poorer countries, don't worry, spoiler alert, you'll be pleased to hear our plucky Americans steal this valuable item.
They do
at the end, and it's a happy ending, right? Yes.
So Andy J. Forrest plays like appears to be kind of like a mercenary dude at the beginning, right? But then later on we find out he's well, I guess he is a mercenary. He's
Michael Douglas of
yes. But I particularly like Dennis Bourke as MacDonald, because I don't know if I've ever seen quite such an intermittent Scottish accent in a film before. Because every now and again he remembers he's supposed to be Scottish.
Yes, you son of a Scotsman.
Yeah. And then he forgets for a while, and he doesn't really have any kind of Scottish accent, and then somebody will tell him he's Scottish, and he'll suddenly give you a line in the brogue.
Yeah, this is dreadful.
It's terrible.
A toy helicopter explodes at one point. I enjoyed that.
That was but not even explodes, just the top just goes pink. It's just fucking awful. Hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's not good. Although I it's not quite cop target. I've been trying to I take these films on their own merits, and I suppose for a shitty Romancing the Stone Indiana Jones rip-off, I mean, I mean, it might be towards the better end of that spectrum. I don't know. Like at this point, it's watching a whole bunch of these films together in a row. Your critical faculties kind of go out the window a little bit, right? Yeah, you're not quite sure what's up, what's down. But Franco Fantasia was the director. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you thought that maybe something like, I don't know, 48 Hours or something like that was the, the height of the buddy cop film.
Yes.
In the Bean or something like that.
Yeah.
But no. It's that magical team. Orsby Rodriguez, Vida Criminal. Oh, here we go. 1992. Umberto Lenzi's final film as a director. Mean Tricks.
Yes.
And I don't know if he knew the end was nigh, but he...
I hope he would have done something else if he did.
With a fucking 109-minute running time.
One of the longest films he made. I think the only thing that's longer is probably the Catherine the Great film from like way the fuck back.
I mean, this shouldn't be at all. But if it was, then, under 90 minutes, please, Umberto. What the fuck is this 109-minute malarkey? Anything in the book about Mean Tricks?
No. I think he gives pretty short shrift to it.
Did he think Charles Napier was a prick, or did he get on with him?
He must have gotten on with it because he wouldn't have put him in, if he hadn't, he wouldn't have put him in the second one. Because he was already in a Lenzi film. I think he got something
to be said. I mean, I wish I liked a film that starred Charles Napier, because I'm sure we're both we like a bit of Charles Napier around here.
Yeah. His stuff with Russ Meyer is like, you know.
I mean, I guess the first time I probably became aware of him before any of that stuff was seeing him in the Blues Brothers as well, right?
Oh, it would have been Rambo for me.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was a little kid.
Jumps out the screen, right, in anything he's at.
Oh, yeah. That cranky fucking face of his.
And so a starring role for Charles Napier should be something to
cause for celebration.
Yeah, but it's not, is it? It's Nick. It's
no, it is not.
Put those party glasses away. Take down the bunting.
Yes, we need to get something more funereal, I think.
Yes, this is a wake, not a celebration, I think. Fucking hell, this is... Oh, my God. I mean, again, looking on the bright side, it's not Cop Target.
No.
But it's not that far off either.
No. Wait, hang on, though. I did notice. Did you notice that car out of Cop Target showed up in one of these later films? Either the one with the Golden Scorpion or this one.
Oh, really?
There was a scene of it driving along like a Florida street somewhere, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's Ginty's car from like 2 movies ago."
Yes, let's. If anyone out there knows if you can spot that car in any other, it is quite noticeable. So Charles.
So what's this piece of shit about then, Clive?
So I mean, it's a bit confusing because at some point they mentioned, but I wasn't sure if this was part of the ruse, that he's a federal agent, he's an FBI agent, but he's not, is he? He's a cop, isn't he? I think
he's a cop. Yeah.
He's a Miami cop who's written a book all about being a cop.
Yep. And he's also really good friends with everyone's favorite, Latino, David Warbeck.
That's right. Yes, David Warbeck, the milk tray man himself. All because the lady loves David Warbeck.
As Frank Mendoza.
Yes, which is a shame for her, because I think he was quite gay. So I don't know if he's.
I didn't know that.
I think so. He was certainly bisexual anyway, but apparently he used to throw the best orgies you've ever seen in your life, from what I've heard. And died relatively young as well, like in his
He did,
50s,
yes.
right?
Yes, yeah, it was of cancer apparently. He yeah, I mean, I was surprised because he did right around that time he did get to record a couple of commentaries for some
Yes.
of the few films.
The Beyond, I think, right?
Yeah.
And he did seem like, of all those minor kind of celebrities who got some fame from he seems to be the one with his head screwed on the straightest. He totally understood it, like he got it, like he enjoyed it, but at the same time kind of didn't let it go to his head. I mean, he did genuinely seem like quite a cool dude.
Yeah, agreed.
David, and kind of knew, I don't know, he just seemed to really well calibrated in terms of like how much he needed to give a shit for each film, because sometimes he's really good as well. Like,
oh yeah,
he's never not good, but sometimes you can tell he's like, oh, you know, like he didn't just turn up, but at the same time he doesn't seem to be kidding himself. Like I have always quite liked The Last Hunter, the Margheriti film with him.
Oh yes, yeah.
The kind of Deer Hunter Apocalypse Now ripoff that he did.
I definitely feel like this film would have benefited from more of him.
Yes, because he's hardly in it, right?
Yes.
So so Charles Napier, cop and author and alcoholic, I guess, goes down to I think they just say South America, but again, it's our old friend, the Dominican Republic. Goes down. David Warbeck's, I guess, suspected of dodgy dealings, but before you can figure it out, he's shot. Dead. And so this is interesting, I suppose.
He was also previously shot too in a flashback at the very beginning of the film, which is bizarre. And then moments later, he shows up at the house and he's killed again. You're like, what's happening? Why is people constantly shooting David Warbeck?
It's because he keeps turning up unannounced in people's houses late at night with a box of fucking chocolates.
That's true. Especially in the US where they have
the chocolate cream.
Yeah, you know, they've got those standard ground laws in the States. You can't.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You can't be entering people's houses with boxes of confectionery.
As charming as you may be.
Yeah.
No. But it's funny, the milk tray thing as well isn't a complete random. So apparently, at a certain point, he was
in the running
to play James Bond, right?
Yeah.
Which would have been interesting. I mean, it's funny because we know him from the films we know him from, and having a dubbed voice and everything. It's very difficult to kind of imagine, but I suppose he might have been. I mean, he certainly wouldn't have been any worse than Roger Moore.
No,
I think.
No, I agree. I think I'm always interested. Like, you could make this kind of alternate timeline of the world because there's several other actors who were also in the running at each stage to play Bond, and also the Doctor in Doctor Who. I'm always interested in those, like, every now and then you'd be like, oh shit, that person was like in the running for the Doctor at that point in the 80s or the 70s or whatever. Like, yeah, it's interesting.
David Warbeck would have been.
He would have been a decent Doctor.
Actually, the one person who I believe who's been like up for both, and I would have loved to see them. I think he would have been a great Doctor and definitely a really good James Bond. Would my man crush Idris Elba?
Oh yeah, no question. Yeah,
he'd have been
Stringer Bell.
Yeah, I love Idris.
Turn a man. Just what fascinates me about Napier's career is, like, just consider the fact that Cop Target and this piece of shit, right between them is his appearance in Oscar-winning Silence of the Lambs. So he goes Lenzi, Silence of the Lambs, and Lenzi.
Although, I mean, every now and again, I mean, Silence of the Lambs is one of those films that plays a bit like a Lenzi film with production values every now and again. There's parts of it, like, it's one of those films where little, like, the kind of, Jonathan Demme's earlier career coming up under Corman kind of seeps through here and there, right? Anyway, I know we're trying to avoid
not talk about this film.
But anyway, so yes, So he goes there, everywhere where he gets shot. And a testament to quite how much I didn't give a shit about the plot of this film. Like, actually, I was going to say I'd totally forgotten who turned out to... Actually, I don't think I ever engaged with the conspiracy while watching the film. I was like, oh yeah, we're trying to figure out who did it or who... I gave up, like, not because it's difficult to follow, I just didn't give a shit. Like,
Yes.
can you even remember what the conspiracy was, or?
No, and I watched this last night, which that's truly terrifying.
Yeah, David Brandon turns up again. I know he's a wrong un in it.
Yes, he is. He might be the main one, actually. He might be the main villain, I think.
I mean, I remembered that Charles Napier has a couple of good lines, like when he's introduced to the kind of femme fatale character. I mean, he goes straight for the jugular, right? Rather than that's nice. That's nice. When she says, "My name is Manuela." That's very sexy.
Yes.
Just like,
yes.
No messing around. I
Mm-hmm.
want to fuck you.
Yeah.
That's it. It's, I mean, leading with the chin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another one of his lines which made me laugh is when the other thing as well, it's so easy to forget that this is a buddy cop film, and his we forgot to mention when he gets to the South America,
yes,
he teams up with Stefano Sabelli, who I don't know who to blame. This is such a shit buddy team up front.
Yep.
And I don't know who to blame. I don't know to blame. I mean, Charles Napier's kind of not bad, I suppose.
No.
I suppose you could argue that Stefano Sabelli's giving his all as well.
Yeah.
But somehow it's
no chemistry.
In fact, I don't think I even really kind of twigged that it's supposed to be a buddy cop film.
Yes.
Until I saw that the original Italian title is Hornsby Rodriguez, a barrel load of laughs, or whatever the fuck it's called. But yeah, so he at one point he says something, I would give my cojones for some car or something. And Charles Napier says, no one wants to see your balls in a jar, kid.
Yes.
Just
yeah. He's Italian, but he's playing like Alfonso Rodriguez. But you know, the accent kind of works.
Alfonso
it's vague enough. It's vague enough. I
don't know if you remember Alfonso Bonzo. That's probably after your time in the UK.
I don't know what that is.
Alfonso Bonzo, Jimmy Webb, Billy Webb.
Jimmy Webb's a great musician, but
Billy Webb was a BBC. Billy Webb was a kid who made up stories or something, and he had a very broad Italian stereotype called Alfonso Bonzo, who would go, hey, Billy Webb, I have a story. I can't even remember. Anyway, that was Alfonso. Yeah.
You can tell how much we want to really dig in.
Avoid me tricks that I'm talking about Alfonso Bonzo. Yeah. I mean, no, it's not good, is it, Nick?
No, it's not, and it's very long and not good.
It's 109 minutes. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Doesn't claim that he was remaking
no
Battleship Potemkin or something.
No. But I have to say this is the first one. This is the first one where I have to do this mea culpa. I have watched all of the films up until this point, up until this one.
Yeah.
At regular playback speed. This was the first one where I was like,
oh,
I am going to have to watch this slightly faster. So everyone was kind of slightly squeaky. In order to shave 30 minutes or whatever, 20 minutes off of the running time. Because it was hard going. After the first 20 minutes, I was like, no. This has to go faster than that. I can't. Yeah.
I watched it 10 times. And it was still too long. Yeah, fucking hell.
So what a way for Lenzi to end his career.
Yes. So what have we learned?
Well, I think we had promised, or at least we talked about it before several episodes back, that we would try to put together a list, at least, of what we had enjoyed or not enjoyed.
Not so much promised as threatened, I think.
Yeah, I think that might have been it. So I did do that.
Yeah, so did I. In fact, what I did was I did a top 5 and a bottom 5.
Okay, that's good. I didn't do a bottom 5, but we'll see if I agree with yours. I can also just bring up, to be honest, I can probably just bring up his filmography here on the computer, and then I can
top
do that
5.
as well.
Shall I go first?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so this is tough. This is not. I didn't. You know. I didn't worry about actually putting them in order.
Yeah, me neither.
But these are maybe the 5 best Umberto Lenzi films. I'll just do them chronologically.
Okay.
Orgasmo. And then a kind of between the two of them, Rome, Arm to the Teeth, Cynic, Rat and the Fist in second place. Eaten Alive. Iron Master.
Okay.
And
that
then,
that was very close to one of my top 5 choices as well.
And then for the 5th, well, we know what yours is all going to be fucking.
Well, we had the conversation before. I will do 2 lists.
Okay. And the 5th one, because not so much. I kind of went for best and kind of representative of different types. So in 5th place, I decided to go for Nightmare Beach.
Oh, nice.
So I think those 5 or 6 will give you a nice or a painless overview of what Lenzi is all about, I think.
So it's funny. So 2 of those were actually on my. They were like near cuts for my top 5 of. So I guess let's start with my top 5 of the films we just need. I'll just go through the 5 Thomas Millian films.
So this is your top 5 with no restrictions. This is your top 5.
Yeah, so this is my top 5. If I was to just go with my gut of the films I enjoy the most, then they're going to be Almost Human, Manhunt in the City, the tough ones are Roma, Amano, Armata, Rome Up in Arms, The Cynic, the Rat and the Fist, and Brothers Till We Die. Brothers Till We Die is it's not great, but it's got so much Millian that it's almost too much Millian.
Yeah, that is pretty unbalanced, that list, is it not?
Well, I think there's Millians in 4 out of the 5, and Silva's in
They're
the other
all
one.
basically the same film.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes.
It was a fucking good film. So then, moving that out, so no
let's get the
Polizio at all.
sensible list. Okay.
This is a weird one, actually. So Invincible Masked Rider. The straight Zorro film, the earlier one. I for some reason got along really well with that.
Okay.
And also Pistol for 100 Coffins, the one with all the madmen pulling faces.
Oh yeah.
Quite like that. Orgasmo.
So you haven't gone for best. You've gone for more what titulated you, it seems.
Oh yeah, what I enjoyed. I guess you're right. So yes,
okay.
These are. And this is a thing between you and me, guys. My best is not best by any other. It's very subjective.
Right.
I can't do that. You do.
Finally.
I can't pull the camera back and do this thing of putting these things in context. The only context is my own synapses.
Right. So crossover with Orgasmo, yay.
Yes. Eaten Alive.
Okay.
Also, I believe on your list.
Yes.
And then Nightmare City. But there was 2 on your list. So Nightmare Beach and Iron Master were also, like, as I was compiling that list, they were very close contenders.
So I guess between the 2 of us, it's Orgasmo and Eaten Alive are the winners. And
yes.
To be fair, I mean, really, if you're really going to try to be serious about it, and if you're if you were going to be in canonical and you were going to save one Lenzi film to represent him, Orgasmo is clearly his best film, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. If you were going to say, you
peaked early.
I think that he would like to be probably remembered for that too.
Yeah.
Not maybe his masterpiece.
Everyone's happy. So my bottom 5.
Yes.
This was kind of tough, but I really wanted to make.
I would have thought you would have had quite a lot.
Well, I really wanted to make a point of this. It kicks off with Cannibal Ferox.
Right, because yes.
because you know someone needs to, whatever the opposite is of standing up for that film, someone needs to sit
To
down
beat
or
that film down.
lie down or something. Yeah. Fatty Girl Goes to New York.
Yep, that was.
I mean, of the comedies, that was the one that was, I suppose, the not only the least amusing, but also the most borderline offensive, I suppose, if you were gonna. So it had all that going on, and the worst shitty pop song of
Oh,
yeah,
Jesus.
Hitcher in the Dark.
Okay, I don't hate that as much as you do.
Cop Target.
Yes.
And Mean Tricks.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
he really
quite
definitely did.
80s heavy.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like this was a thing where it was truly limping to the finish line here with this with the iguana's butthole. But
Yeah.
can you see the light? Can you see the butthole? It's fully dilated. We've been expelled.
Unfortunately, I think I've gone blind from being in the bumhole for too long.
Well, if fecal matter gets in the eyes, it does, you know.
It does.
Particularly, I believe,
Isn't that a
fecal
jazz standard? Fecal matter gets in your eyes.
I think it is, Clive. All right. So I think we should leave them with that.
Yes, I mean it feels a bit anti-climatic, but you know, I mean that's.
But so did Hornsby and Rodriguez.
Yes, this is yeah. So until we return to
wait, we're not doing these films again, are we?
No, yes, we're doing it all again from the beginning. Forever.
Jesus wept, Clive.
Yes, Sisyphus's Bumhole, I believe we're going to call it.
we're just gonna continually watch the 64 Lenzi films the rest of our lives.
Sweaty bumhole, I would have thought, pushing that boulder. It's better to be in the iguanas one, I think. But no, something tells me at some point in the future we're going to be stupid enough to do something similarly themed around the great man Joe D'Amato. So the reason I'm putting that out there,
you say D'Amato, but I say Aristide Massachese.
There we go. See, it worked. I wanted to trick you into doing a proof of concept. So you can't get away with not doing it. So there we go. You're committed now. Coming to a screen near you next year. I say D'Amato, you say Massachese. Until then.
Toodaloo.
Are you out of your mind?